Bosque Village. Bosque is a word that means forest in Spanish. And the reason it's in the name of the place is because the forest is the most important part. It's more important than the people. It's more important than me. It's more important than any projects we do here. Protecting land should be one of our primary goals to save the entire planet and ourselves. And so one of my pleasures in life is that I get to be, for a time, a custodian of a forest, a protector of a forest. And I've learned a lot since 2004 about forestry management. When I first started, I thought, I'm not going to ever cut down any trees, and I'm just going to make it, all be like old growth forest. I'll just leave it all natural. Well, I've learned a lot since then, and I've cut down a lot of trees. I've changed how I think about things, and that's partly because this forest is not some pristine natural forest. It's a forest that is recovering from having been clear-cut a long time ago, probably around the time when they built the trains. Because after they built the train, which is fairly nearby, they were also building cities, and they were cutting down a lot of forest to build buildings. And so there's, the building supplies around here. Some of it's cantera, which is stone. It's a pink stone. Morelia, the city nearby, is the city of pink stone or something. And they're using wood for the rafters, the beams and things. And they used, of course, wood for the railroad ties. And so the forest got cut down then. After that, there was cows on these in this area. And then after that, it reforested with pine. Pine is a conifer, one of many conifers. And coniferous forests are the least biodiverse type of forests. The pines come in very quickly like a pioneer species, and the trees go really quick. So that's really great, and that's what it was when I got it. It was primarily a pine forest. Now that I've cut down some pine trees, in those spots, the oak trees have been able to grow faster and bigger, and because there's no cows here, there's been a lot more other types of trees that have come in naturally. Primarily capulin, which is black cherry, and hawthorn, which is tejocote in Spanish, I believe. Hawthorn is great because you can graft things onto it like quince and pear and probably some other stuff. Maybe apples. I haven't tried that. So what we're seeing is more tree diversity, and that helps out with biodiversity in general. Because part of creating a forest is not just having a tree farm, because those are not very biodiverse, but making space for fungi, for insects, for birds, for wildlife. A lot of the water that used to flow through here doesn't flow anymore because the humans have tapped off those water sources up at the springs. And so we have an artificially dry forest. We still, of course, get the rainy season, but when it's not the rainy season, it's quite dry. So the things we as humans can do here is place water that we capture from the rain out to support wildlife and birds. And we can encourage microclimates that are here. When we find native plants that are rare, we can encourage those plants to reestablish. For example, orchids in the trees. There's a Laelia species of orchid that's here, and you won't find very many here, but I've hiked to places where you find like an oak tree and it's just covered in them. There's also an epiphytic cactus that lives in the trees that we're reproducing and putting back up in the trees. And the bromeliads. The bromeliads are really cool looking. And all of these are underrepresented from what they would be in an old growth forest. So the goal is still the same, but there's some different methods on how to get there. And of course, one of the most difficult parts of this project is how can we have people living in a forest and have that forest be enhanced rather than destroyed? Generally speaking, if humans get anywhere near any form of nature, they will destroy it, they'll pave it over, and then wonder what happened. Well, here we can kind of consciously make decisions where we do the opposite of that, where we're part of creating genetic diversity, creating an environment that we can still scrape some food off of. We can still do food forest gardening. We can still be harvesting from it. But the overall impact we have is on increasing the resources available for all forms of life. So that's a whole different attitude towards our relationship with plants and with wildlife than just man as the dominating force who will use whatever natural resources that they want and build a more civilized, cleaned up place. Of course, living in a forest has some difficulties. Right now there's woodpeckers eating my house. They're just knocking at it. They aren't even building a house to live in it. I think they're surprised when this weird tree or something doesn't have what they expect inside. And you'll find insects here and spiders and scorpions and rattlesnakes. I don't want to scare you. If you're going to come here, you're probably the kind of person that isn't too scared by that anyway. And there's lots of bigger wildlife out there like coyotes, armadillos, lots of kinds of owls. Or I don't know how many kinds of owls since they're so shy, but at least two. And you'll hear them at night. And there's foxes and bobcats and ocelots. I think there's ocelots. I saw some kind of weird feline, but it was dusk. None of those animals will hurt you if you don't bother them. The rattlesnakes will definitely hurt you if you bother them. So I recommend don't do that. And it's getting more complex over time. We're now getting into tree sculpting. We've done a little tiny bit with it, but we really want to make trees almost be a building supply where if we want a bench, we grow the bench and it's a living bench. If we want an arbor, we can grow the arbor. We can grow shaded spots. So if we change our way of relating to something like a tree, we can see it as something other than just something we cut down and build a chair. We can instead grow a chair. Or we can, make trees that are perfect for building tree houses. People like tree houses, So there's a lot of details on that. And I hope to be sharing more about the things I've learned after being so many years in the forest and really being very careful about why we would cut down a tree or not, or how we deal with the soil, how we harvest mushrooms or not, and how we can benefit from living in nature. Also, how we can make videos that don't ramble on quite as long as this one. But really, once I post it, that's your problem, not mine, if you're watching it. Good luck.